How's it going, boys? Patrick Line back with another video. In today's video, we're going to be discussing if I think we will see an offer sheet in free agency this year. We've got a lot of really good RFAs upcoming, and some teams just don't have the money to sign their stars. So we're going to be discussing some of the fine points of offer sheets and RFAs and getting down to it and see why, we haven't had one in a while and if I believe there will be one. I'm not sure if I'm going to upload this video on the 30th, it is the night before free agency currently, or if I will upload it in the morning. So if you guys are watching this on July 1st, happy Canada Day and happy free agency day. I hope all your teams pick up a player that will be very useful for them in the future. And with that said, let's get into the video. So first up, we're going to be looking at some reasons why we do not see many offer sheets in the NHL. And the first one is kind of a gentlemanly one. It kind of ruins GM's relationships. So say the Islanders decide they want to go after Marner and they send him a big offer sheet and Toronto cannot accept, then it kind of tarnishes the relationship between Toronto and the Islanders as far as trades go. It'll be a lot harder to negotiate any deals or signings or any input on anything that happens with those two teams. It'll just kind of ruin the relationship and make it a little harder for trades to happen. You never want to lose a trading partner. You always want to have good relationships with all the other teams. So it can definitely ruin some relationships. The second point as to why we don't see them as often anymore are that draft picks are way more valuable than they were when the offer sheet was kind of instituted and during the highlight of it. So draft picks are very valuable these days. You often see rentals going for firsts or seconds. It's very hard to acquire a first round pick in most deals. They're just very valuable. So when you look at guys and having to give up, 4 first round picks or a first, a second, a third, and another first, it's really tough for people to part ways with that because GMs can look at what they can get in a trade for those two as opposed to having to gamble with one player. I think they would definitely get more in the trade. Depends on how good your team is and where those picks will most likely be. So draft picks are just way more valuable than when offer sheets were kind of instituted. And the third reason as to why we don't see them as much anymore is because most of them are likely to get matched. We're going to be going over it in a second, but in recent history, most of the offer sheets have been matched. If you throw out an offer, you might be trying to get a steal, but if it's a good contract that you're offering them, then the team is most likely to just match it unless you're really overpaying, and that overpaying doesn't happen too often. GMs are pretty smart. There is a couple here and there, but if they're giving up draft picks and they're going to overpay, they need to give them the right contract, and because people are giving them the right contract, it's easy for the GMs to match the deal. So that is some of the reasons we don't see them very often, and we're going to look at some of the recent history of offer sheets. So we're going to be looking at the 3 most recent offer sheets because all 3 of these offer sheets have taken place within the last 10 years. The 4th last one took place in 2008, so it is over 10 years. And I did not include it in the video, but just for information's sake, the last offer sheet not to be matched that was accepted was Dustin Penner going to the Edmonton Oilers. The Edmonton Oilers had to give up a first, a second, and a third in 2008, and it was a 5-year, $21.5 million deal. So now let's get into some of the more recent ones. So of course, as it says, these were all matched. In 2010, the Sharks tried to woo Nick Hjalmarsson away from Chicago with a 4-year, $14 million deal, and Chicago was able to match that one. Obviously, he's been sent to Arizona now in a trade. In 2012, Philly tried to steal Shea Weber on a huge deal from Nashville, 14 years, $110 million. That is an unprecedented contract. You're never going to see 14-year contracts in the NHL anymore, but this was a huge offer, and Nashville stepped up to the plate. They did not want to lose Shea Weber. Obviously, he's been traded now, and he's no longer with Nashville, but this was definitely a great play by Nashville to match this one. And in 2013, this is the last offer sheet we have seen. It was 6 years ago that Calgary tried to steal Ryan O'Reilly from the Avalanche on a 2-year, $5 million per season deal. This is definitely an obvious one. I think Calgary was just trying to test the waters here, but Colorado made the smart choice, matched him, and Ryan O'Reilly turned out to be a Stanley Cup champion and playoff MVP this year, so obviously it was the right moves by the Avs at the time. So for the next one we're going to be looking at is 3 players that are most likely to receive offer sheets from any given team. They are Braden Point, Timo Meier, and Mitch Marner. Now, Braden Point is definitely an interesting one because he plays on such a really good team in Tampa Bay. They can definitely try and squeeze him into the cap. I wouldn't be surprised to see him re-sign any day now. But Point is definitely a guy some teams could go after if they're willing to feel it and willing to risk it. He's an excellent player, put up a lot of points this year. I had him in fantasy hockey, so I was reaping the rewards of Braden Point's production. And I think he's a great player. I think he would make any team happy, but it would probably have to be in the 10.5 million or above range for any team, and Tampa would have a hard time matching that. I think they could, but it's definitely an interesting one. So the next one on the list is Timo Meier. Now this is another interesting one because the Sharks kind of screwed the pooch when it comes to their salary situation. They signed Erik Karlsson to his huge deal, which obviously makes sense in their eyes. They want the best defenseman in the NHL, in their eyes, signed long-term with the Sharks. But it definitely messed up their salary cap situation because they're letting guys walk like Jonas Donskoy, Gustav Nyquist, Pavelski, Thornton, huge parts of their team because of this Karlsson contract, and they're going to have a hard time getting guys like Kevin Labanc and Timo Meier, who are both RFAs, under contract with the amount of money they have. Timo Meier is going to command a high price. He's a 30-goal scorer this year, had 60 points, 30 and 30. He's a really good player, and he's going to command a high sum, 6 or 7, I would believe. So if any team could afford to send an offer sheet to Timo Meier and he were to accept, the Sharks would have a hard time matching it. So up next is definitely the most popular player on this list. It is the poster boy of the offer sheet, and probably the most interesting topic coming into free agency this year is Mitch Marner. What is going to happen with Mitch? Are they going to be able to fit him in on the team? Are they going to find some way to relieve more cap? Is Zaitsev the answer? Or are they just going to have to let Marner go and take an offer sheet and get some draft picks in return? There are definitely many rumors swirling around, so it's tough to pinpoint what is exactly true, but from what I've heard, he rejected an 8-year, $11 million per season deal from the Maple Leafs, and apparently from what I've heard, the Islanders have actually offered him a $13 million deal per season at 5 years, which is what Marner was, rumored to be asking for, was a deal between 5 and 6 years, which is what I've also predicted in my RFA video. Humble brag, but this is definitely the most interesting topic aside from Bob and Panarin being in free agency. The Marner saga, how is it going to end? What's going to happen? I'm definitely interested to see how it turns out. So now we ask the question, do I think we will see one this year? And we are talking about offer sheets, RFAs. Can we see an offer sheet be submitted to one of the bigger players on the market? And I think my answer is a yes. It is this year, if any year, that is really going to set the market for RFAs and offer sheets. Like I said in previous slide, we haven't seen an offer sheet in many years. It's kind of died down, so I think this year may be the year to revive it. I'm not sure if it'll continue to happen after this year, but I definitely think this is the right year for offer sheets to make their full-fledged return, and I think we can see one, if not a couple stars swapping homes with an offer sheet. And that is the video for today, guys. I hope you enjoy. Like I said earlier, I don't know if I'll be uploading this on the night before free agency or if I'll be uploading this on July 1st, but if you're watching this on July 1st, happy Canada Day and happy National Free Agency Day. I know I definitely consider it a holiday. It's up there with the trade deadline and the draft. Those 3 days are, always holidays in my book. I always try and make sure I get them off so I can sit down, watch it, and this year I'll be making hopefully tons of content surrounding free agency and within the days to come. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed this one. Peace out, and I will talk to you in the next one.